Alice in Wonderland is a children's book published in year 1865. Its wonderful and fictive world has been adapted on stage and cinema many, many times. And the same Through the Looking Glass. But wait, it was first published in 1865? Wasn't this the time of the Victorian Kingdom? Right. Before 18-year-old Victoria was crowned in 1837, she wasn't even thinking about climbing the throne. But her uncle, King William IV, died without having any children. At this point, nobody was aware of what was to come. Victoria's name would be representative for the whole century. Under Victoria, the British monarchy changes from power to representation, because the country itself changed too. Not only the crown and the monarchy shaped the history of England in the 19th century, but also industrials, companies and ambitious politicians. Victoria is the one who gets the icon for Great Britain's change to a modern great power, but also for keeping traditions and social conventions. Victoria herself married Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg out of love, what was very unusual these times. She gave birth to 9 children and lived very happy until Albert suddenly died in 1861. She got very sad and from this point only wore black. This got her trademark. With her moral way of life and her assiduous implementation of her official duties, she became the perfect example for people these times. England became the economic power through the early Industrial Revolution. From 1830 to 1901, the number of inhabitants exploded and got around the 40 million. Old lines of business were getting replaced by new ones like the railway. As a consequence, ghettos were built, but also the economic boom built a chance for an expanding middle class. For example, people got the chance for education, for all classes, also for women. To talk about the classes, we first have the lower class. About 2/3 of all people belonged to the lower class. These were the poor, the day traders, cottagers, workers, and sailors. This social class was often about having rebellions and despoilments. Farmers had some hard times, and most of them changed to work in industry. But work wasn't that easy over there too. For example, even women and children had to work in factories under really hard conditions. Many of the men found their balance in alcohol. Next is the middle class. Positioned between the lower class and the gentry were people like marketers, freelancers, and clergy. This is the lower middle class. The upper middle class went for a change of life and sent their children to private schools. By the way, the second biggest field of work in 1851 was the one of the housemaid. Now we go to the upper class, or in this case, the gentry. There is the landed gentry and the high nobility. The high nobility saved its position over the years, while the landed gentry lost its political influence and was instead investing in industrial lines. But also the other way round, successful people from the industry worked their way up to the gentry. We also have to talk about the religious life. Important for Victorian people was the moral responsibility. Many missions all around the world and lots of public speeches influenced politics. Especially middle-class people wanted to draw a border from lower class and gentry by reading the Bible and praying on Sundays. They saw gambling, alcohol and divorces as bad things that led to social exclusion. Instead, you should live by hard work, canniness, fairness, and good doings. Very important is the role of the women in the Victorian era. The goal of women's life was marriage, getting children, and raising them devotionally. Only 7% of them worked outside the family sphere. They normally had no right to have property. Changes were given by the law in the following years: women's right after divorce, property after divorce, and suffrage were changed. But the Victorian era wasn't all good. There were also double moral standards. Important to that is prostitution. Middle-class men married when they had financial security. Before, they found refuge at prostitutes. These prostitutes were women from lower class that wanted to gain more money. But also, since 1878, women had the chance to study and have a better education. Lots of them worked in the field of medicine, afterwards also in communications, post offices and railway. If we take a look at today, we can see the Victorian era as good or either bad. Good, for example, because of security and wealth. Bad, for example, because of the chat bans and the constant quest for money and property. Sometimes people even call it the good old times. Oh, by the way, if you wonder where you've seen this fashion before, yes, the Lolita fashion also came out of these times. I hope this video gave you a good impression about what the Victorian era was about. Thank you for watching.